FBI Director Christopher Wray faced the House Judiciary Committee Wednesday for the first time since Republicans took control of the panel, and it was noticeable because in the nearly 6-hour hearing, he responded to repeated accusations of interference in high-profile cases. He also emphatically defended the agents serving under his command.
Today's FBI leaders reflect the best of our organization, an organization that is made up of 38,000 men and women who are patriots, professionals, and dedicated public servants.
Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not.
You preside over the FBI that has the lowest level of trust in the FBI's history.
Respectfully, Congressman, in your home state of Florida, the number of people applying to come work for us and devote their lives working for us is up over 100%.
We're deeply proud of them, and they deserve better than you.
It's actually sad that the majority is engaging in conspiracy theories. In my view, actually, I'm concerned that the FBI has been reluctant to do its job when it comes to the former president.
Our folks take great pains to be rigorous, professional, objective, following all our policies and procedures, and do the work in the right way. And sometimes that's frustrating to others.
Let's bring in Josh Skule now. He's a national security expert and former FBI Executive Assistant Director for Intelligence. He's also the president of Bowwave, a Washington-based consulting firm. Josh, a couple fireworks there. And if we can just zoom out for a moment, of course, Republicans are suspicious. They will say they're speaking for their constituents who don't trust the FBI. If we rewind the clock to James Comey's FBI during the Obama administration and the Trump and Clinton election, Democrats didn't respect or appreciate the way it was doing business. So regardless of the political motivations some lawmakers may have now, how concerning is the concept that the public may in fact be losing trust in the agency?
Well, trust in the FBI is critical to the FBI being able to protect our nation. We've been going back years, having discussions about defunding law enforcement writ large. You have to look at the bigger picture and see how that's serving us today in the greater law enforcement. These are folks that are signed up to protect us. And so I don't think it does the organization well when it becomes a political football and on the Hill.
And you do wonder what the American public gets from these hearings, you know, a sense of worry or encouragement that Congress people are looking into the issue. Democrats, though, largely questioned Wray about investigating former President Trump. Let's just show that exchange.
Director Wray, a ballroom, a bedroom, are those appropriate places to store classified, confidential information?
There are specific rules about where to store classified information, and that those need to be stored in a SCIF, a secure compartmentalized information facility. And in my experience, ballrooms, bathrooms, and bedrooms are not SCIFs.
Bedroom, bathroom, ballroom? How about a box in a
Mr.
garage?
Chairman,
Mr. Beach
Chairman.
House in Delaware and the Biden Center. I don't think those are SCIFs
Mr. Chairman,
either.
point of order.
Whether it's the former president or the current one, talk to us about how the FBI is navigating, investigating presidents, or at least the possession of documents, because it's fraught with issues.
Well, the FBI has always been charged with investigating sensitive issues. How it comports itself, what it does, is always going to be under a microscope. I mean, you can go back to Sandy Berger stuffing classified in his socks. And it really, when you're talking about the possession of classified information, the misuse of classified information, those rise to the highest levels of investigation. And so what the FBI does is try to take an objective approach for each of those investigations. Fast forward to the investigations that have been open on the former President Trump, current President Biden, and then former Vice President Pence. That investigation on former Vice President Pence has already been closed because it was determined to be a mistake. So these are things that are taken into account. But what the FBI does is take an objective approach and look at the facts.
And just in our last minute, speak to me about the challenge, though, of that delicate balance being completely objective. You know, as we've already mentioned, the FBI has gone outside of policy sometimes before in announcing that investigations end or that they haven't ended. How do agents navigate that and divorce themselves from the politics of the moment?
Well, what I can tell you, Earl, in my nearly 22 years in the FBI, working gangs, violent crimes, public corruption, counterterrorism, and then ending up as the chief of intelligence, that I was never presented with an investigation where somebody's political bias had creeped in. Not once. I'd been briefed on thousands of investigations. And then when you come into the FBI, you are born into an organization that says your political leanings do not matter. And that is the vast majority. 38,000 employees at the FBI take that approach. They're still people, and people make mistakes, and they need to be held to account for those mistakes when they happen. But in the broader picture, that is not what the FBI does.
The bigger picture is a good point as well, because most of what the FBI does, no one knows about. Great to chat with you, Josh Skule. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.